Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Not So Fresh Off the Boat. On today's episode, we are joined by Julio, a fellow D.A.C.A recipient. I met Julio on a Discord server exclusively for D.A.C.A. This server provides important information on everything from filing a new application to our legal limitations. It also provides a much needed sense of community and emotional support. He's going to tell us a little bit about his experience coming to the US. Thank you and enjoy the show. All right, welcome back to Not So Fresh Off the Boat, the podcast about not knowing where you belong. This week, we've got a very special guest. We've got Julio. I met Julio on a Discord server dedicated to D.A.C.A recipients. And yeah, Julio, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. Um, you know, talking about my story or in my my life basically.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, we appreciate you coming on here. Actually, I was kind of hesitant about like posting it because I didn't want to misrepresent anyone. Like obviously, every situation, every DACA case is unique, so I didn't want to misrepresent. I didn't want to act like I was the voice of DACA. And that was like a few people I reached out to privately, and everyone was camera shy. Like it's surprising because everyone's like pretty outspoken on there. And then the minute I was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
do you mind if I turn a camera on?" They were like, "No," it stays on the Discord. So yeah, appreciate your willingness to do this. And before we start with the actual questions, when did you find that server? When did you find the Discord?
Well, I've always been lurking because they obviously have a Reddit or a subreddit. So I would lurk regarding information, like basically stories about other people, how fast they were renewed. And I started being a bit more active on Discord just because of the current events that happened with the whole voting and you know the people that were running for president. So I just decided to be a bit more active in regards with what was going on and what could potentially happen to my status with DACA.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean that's kind of why I did it. At first it started me checking the Reddit for renewal times, just because I was really worried about mine. And
Hmm.
then I saw some questions that I had answered, and I felt compelled to just start like replying to people and just kind of like I don't know. It felt good to help someone that kind of was in the spot I was maybe like a year ago or something, and then also people helping. Like it's a good resource. So if anyone's listening that is DACA that has not joined the Discord server, I would say 100% look up that subreddit and it's good support. It's a good support system. I find it's a good group of people on there.
Yeah, and
Um,
any online. I know I'm not personally involved with any DACA server or anything like that, but I do know that for any immigrant, whether you're like the spouse of somebody going through the process of trying to become a permanent resident, as we talked about with your brother last week, there's a lot of Facebook groups and subreddits that are also involved with that, where spouses can kind of talk about that process, or the people that are going through it can kind of talk about that. So wherever you're able to find that, I would highly recommend anybody seek out any sort of support they can online.
yeah, it's a good tip. It's a good tip. So Julio, back to you. So I know we talked privately about this, but when did you come here? Because you have a very interesting story, like very interesting timeline.
Yeah. So my first time here was when before I started first grade. So this was back in, I would say, 94. Um, then I attended first year. I it was very difficult because obviously I had no knowledge about you know the language here, so English was very foreign for me. And from what my parents have told me, because I honestly do not remember the exact details of me going through school, so it was kind of like it was a bit of a blur.
Yeah.
But um I basically had a difficult time just because of the language barrier. There was not a lot of what do you call it for like Spanish programs?
Oh,
ESL.
ESL.
Yeah, there was not a lot of ESL programs here in Colorado, so they had to change me to a different school in order for me to be able to attend those programs. So it was a bit difficult when I first started, but I got adjusted. Went into all the way to fourth grade. Had to go back to Mexico because my parents, well, mainly my mom, she had my grandpa being sick, so she wanted to be there for him. So me and my mom decided to go back to Mexico. And I guess after that, my parents just decided not to come back here to the US. We were in Mexico for about 5 years approximately. And we just stayed there. And somehow after 2001, we decided to come back to the US. So I still remembered. So it was very weird because I went from not knowing English to knowing the basics and still maintain or be able to retain the basics of English back to having to relearn everything because I got accustomed to speaking Spanish. So like I'm glad that that happened to me just because I was able to learn Spanish like more properly. Because back when I was still here, before going back to Mexico, my Spanish was terrible. Like I could guarantee you that I would probably not even know how to write it or at
Mm,
least read it. Yeah,
yeah.
it was that bad.
I'd like to give you a glimpse of what could have happened if you hadn't gone back. Have I can read it fine. I can speak it okay. But writing it, dude, writing's tough. Yeah. I
Yeah.
thank God for autocorrect. Whenever I have to text my aunt, I'm like, I just kind of make an attempt, and autocorrect's like, "Did you mean?" Yes, I did. Thank you. So I guess okay. So that's interesting because like you were in the U.S. between 6 and 9, and that's like when you're learning how to like socialize. That's when you're
Yeah.
developing all those like that's like key part of your development. Um, how did you feel like initially when you back? So like when you're like 9, 10 years old going back to Mexico, like did you feel like that affected anyway like how you behaved, who you hung out with? Because
Yeah, behavior wise, it was completely different just because at least here I was a bit more secluded as to my most of my family's from Mexico City or near Mexico City or the state of Mexico, basically. So their Spanish is not it's 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 not what you would be calling like formal.
hmm
It's more like obviously they use a lot of vulgar words, and I was not accustomed to that. Like my parents would know those words, but they were never really like speak
yeah,
like that. So, and then obviously in school, I mean, I knew a few bad words in English, but when I went back, like all this, like the way they talk and like the Spanish lingo or like what they call near Mexico City, like alburear, like all that stuff. I was I was not accustomed to that, so like it was a bit difficult, and I guess I was made fun of a bit, but I learned the hard way. So like I said, I'm thankful that I kind of went through that phase, just because like I feel like my situation would have been completely different. Like
yeah,
yeah, like I actually had to go back one grade because when I went back to Mexico, they did a general exam about the history, math, reading, writing, and obviously math and reading and writing was bad, but math was obviously math. The history of Mexico was like I knew nothing about. So they gave me the option to either stay in my current grade or go back one grade. And basically, kind of catch up. So I decided to go back one grade, and yeah, so I graduated late, but not because I want. Well, not I guess because I wanted to, but yeah, it
Yeah,
was it was challenging.
and when you say like you made that decision, or was that like a collaborative decision between you and your parents?
Me and my parents, because
Yeah.
they, I mean, from what I can remember, it was mainly just like, do you want to stay in fourth grade or do you want to go back to third grade? And I was like, from what I remember at least, I was like, if I stay in fourth grade, yeah, I can stay in the grade I'm in, but I'm not gonna learn much, and I feel like I'm gonna be more pressured, you know.
That's very
So,
insightful for a fourth grader. Like,
yeah. I mean, I guess I guess
yeah,
it is.
that would have been like, what are the kids gonna think? They're gonna think that I went back because I couldn't do it. I don't know. I was a very anxious kid. I thought everyone was gonna.
Uh,
Um, but so that's interesting that you mentioned that because I actually told a story. I think we cut the episode that I told the story in, but there was an instance or incident where there was another Mexican kid talking to me, and like I think I was in sixth or seventh grade, and my whole life my parents they're like don't use a lot of curse words like any bad language like that in Spanish. Until I got older. Like once I got older, my dad will just let it like think fine. I'm
yeah,
like, how do you talk like that? You every other word, you know. But
yeah,
because yeah, we're also from Mexico City. But this kid, he's like, you're not really Mexican. I'm like, I am. And he's like, oh yeah, like what's this word? And he like started lifting off like um, curse words in English, and he wanted me to translate them for him as like to prove that I was Mexican, and I'd
yeah.
never come across them. And so after that, I like went home on the bus. I was like, oh damn, I guess I'm not Mexican, huh? And so it's like a tough thing to deal with when you're like 13, 12.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
You have your Mexican passport at home, Pedro, and you're like, I guess I don't need this anymore.
Yeah, like I call up USCIS. I'm like, hey, I think you guys lost my social security.
Somewhere in the mail.
Yeah, because I should have one. No, no. Daniel, yeah, Daniel in sixth grade told me that I'm not Mexican, so I might want to consult with him. So another thing I want to touch on, and this is just something I've heard from my family, is that it's this like the environment in schools. It's like authority is not respected in schools in the U.S. like they are in Mexico. Um, like kids can get away with a lot more stuff. There's just like a lot more behavioral issues. Um, would you say that's true? Like having been back and forth within such a short period of time, did you notice that back then?
Authority wise, okay, what do you mean? Like exactly?
Like kids acting out in class and how the teachers would handle it. Would it be more strict in Mexico? Because I obviously was out of there like by first grade, so I don't really remember much of how they would
Yeah,
discipline.
they are more strict in regards to like how they behave. Um, but I think I think it has even out actually. I mean, I know in regards with education, for example, like algebra. I know I started learning algebra in like fifth grade. So compared to when I came back here, I technically already knew what was covered in sixth grade to sixth to seventh grade. I already learned it in fifth grade. So for me, I think that was mainly the difference. Authority wise, I would say they're about the same.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe back then it was a little bit different, but I mean, nowadays I feel like Mexico has definitely gotten more westernized. Like, I
Yeah.
guess, the influence has caught up a little bit more. Because, like, even when I came back in eighth grade here, there was a lot more people that spoke Spanish that from what I remembered. So, like, there was a lot more like ESL because I came back and I got enrolled into ESL for the first year. And then between like half of the school year, they bumped me up right away just because I was able to mainly retain most of my, you know, English words. So yeah, it was I was shocked just because of the amount of people that spoke Spanish compared to
Yeah.
when I first started. Because when I first started in first grade, it was just I yeah, there was a lot of kids that I didn't know that spoke Spanish.
And both times did you come back to Denver?
Yeah.
So when you were
So
6 and then again at 15?
yeah. So the first time I came back, I mean the first time I came here, it was in a um Aurora school, and that's I mean it's Aurora. Now if I go to Aurora, there's a lot more Spanish speaking people than if you go to other places of Denver or in the vicinity of Denver. So it definitely has changed a lot. And the second time I came back, I actually uh, came back maybe half an hour from where when I first started. So yeah, it has changed a lot for sure.
Like yeah, like but same general area though. But you saw that
Yeah,
much
same
change
general
within
area.
like that.
Yeah,
What? That
yeah. I mean, it could be just Denver, but like in the vicinities, it definitely has changed a lot.
and so how was your time then adjusting back when you were 15? So you're coming back 8th grade um with whole new vocabulary, whole new attitude. Um did you like were there people you knew like in when you were 9 that you came back and like reconnected with, or were you in a different school district?
No, it was completely different people. I couldn't even remember anybody that I knew back in elementary. I sort of had an idea of where my elementary school was, but I never really kept in touch with the other people
Yeah,
or
it's hard
anything.
that age and that time period.
Yeah, especially because obviously this was in '97, so the internet was like very young, and I didn't know. Yeah, I just didn't really write letters or anything like that, so it was never a thing for me.
Yeah,
But it, I mean, I made new friends. I made a good friend actually. I'm not so close to him as much as I used to be, but I actually met him through because he was listening to Spanish rock band. So I was like, "Hey, you listen to that?" I never would have imagined because it's a whole different country. So
Mhm.
I've never imagined somebody that was born here to be listening to that Spanish rock band. So he was like, "Yeah, my uncle, gave me the album, so I listened to it and I liked it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he's Hispanic, but obviously he was born and raised here. So
that's kind of how me and Chris are. He was raised here. I was brought
yeah,
here, smuggled here. What band was
yeah.
it?
El Tri,
El Tri. Yeah,
Oh, my
my
dad likes
dad
yeah,
loves
them.
them. Yeah.
yeah, El Tri. So I was, yeah, I was surprised. I was like, holy crap! Like he actually listens to this type of music. So we became pretty good friends and went to high school together. And then after that, we just kind of went our separate ways. But yeah.
So would you so you said you got bullied when you went back to Mexico? Did you like face any kind of bullying when you came back here? Probably not, huh? Like I feel like
No, not quite. Just because my English was still a bit fresh, I guess. The writing part was a little bit difficult. Um, the reading part, not so much, but I mean, I retained most of my English, but I still find myself like I don't speak it that fluent compared to Spanish.
mhm.
I don't know if it had to do because of obviously me going back when I was 9 years old and staying there until like 14. So obviously, most of my Spanish I learned back in Mexico. Um, but I still feel like sometimes my English is a little bit off compared to my Spanish.
Did you I know I felt this like early on when I was like in like second, third grade. I was absolutely terrified of reading out loud. Like if I ever had to read anything out loud, like there was like you know in the classroom or whatever, I would
Yeah.
just be so terrified. Did you ever have that, or were you just like,
No, I
you
was. I
know,
was. Like even in Spanish or like reading in out loud in school in Spanish in Mexico, I never really liked it.
yeah?
Never. Yeah. It was
Do you think?
something very difficult for me.
Uh, Man, yeah. I feel like you go through a lot like when you're moving countries and like switching like when you go through that big of a change, I feel like it really affects you when you're little. Like you don't realize it.
Yeah, now I mean now that I sort of look at, you know, analyze it again, it it definitely has an impact on you. Like
That's a lot. That's a lot for a 9-year-old to
yeah.
go through.
Yeah.
Like moving countries multiple times.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I don't know. It's something I think about like hey, we turned out all right. We're doing all right.
Yeah.
I had a question, Julio, like, because if you're, like you mentioned, you're living in the US from like ages 6 to 9, when you're going back, to Mexico and then coming back to the United States when you're 14, like, how American did you feel in those 3 years? Like, how accustomed, I know it was very little, very long time ago, but like, I guess, did the United States feel at all a little bit like more familiar when you were coming back?
No. At least for Denver, it changed a lot. When I went back to Mexico, I did feel more American, and I felt like I had a upper hand because I they did my parents did enroll me in a school that offered English just because they wanted me to retain that. So I went to that school for about um, I would say a year and a half, and until they decided to enroll me into like a public school. But like after coming back here, it it just it felt more not like Mexico, but I obviously had a lot more people that spoke Spanish. The first time from what I remember, my parents said that I wanted to go back to Mexico. Like I didn't want to be here because I couldn't fit in. I didn't understand any of the kids in school. Like it was very foreign for me. Like I the only thing I remember from that from first to second grade was learning how to use chopsticks because they taught you with Crayolas. That's the only thing. Other than that, it's a bit of a blur for me. Like it just
Yeah.
I don't remember any of it. Up until like third grade and fourth grade, I adjusted a little bit more because obviously I learned English. But first and second grade, it's more of a blur
But
than
you
me
do
actually
remember
remember.
like wanting to go back or like
No, I actually don't remember that. That's what my parents said, but I don't ever remember. I remember having difficulty understanding kids, but I don't remember because apparently I even got sick. Like I got a fever. I guess I went in like through a depression time frame or something like that. I honestly don't remember any of it.
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, well, the reason I wanted to keep talking about that was because like I remember um laying awake. So like I just came here. I was around the same like same age, like 7 years old, like laying awake every night, like just feeling so homesick, like not in my stomach. Um First grade was I was in ESL, like I had trouble communicating with people, and normally I'm very like charismatic, like always wanting to talk kind of guy. And so being like a chatterbox in Mexico and then coming here and just like putting a halt to that, like not being able to do that, I was I was just a sad little kid. It's messed up looking back on it, but I mean that's like the price you pay, I guess, for
Yeah. Yeah,
uh
it's hard to cope with, I guess when you're young. Um I have always been a bit on the quiet side, for at least for me personally. Like I always have stayed on the side and just kind of I like to observe a lot. So at least from what I remember, my parents would tell me like when I was a kid or young, they would put me in one spot and then I would just play by myself. Like I was I was more in the middle. Like I wasn't as rowdy, but I was still, a bit talkative whenever I wanted to.
Hmm.
So I guess it kind of helped me cope with like all the changes. But like I said, the only thing I do is that remember is that I just that face was just blurred out for me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember really wanting to talk to like I've always liked talking to pretty girls. I remember I couldn't do that. That was so tough. I think that's why I learned. That's why I was like motivated to learn English. I was like, bro, there's girls that need to be hollered at, and I gotta do it. I respect women for anyone listening. Just want to clear that. I want to circle back to something real quick. I want to tell a story real quick. I don't want to steal your spotlight for too long.
No, that's okay.
But you were talking about how, um, like back then it's like hard to keep in touch. There's no internet, like, and like obviously a 6-year-old's not gonna get someone's mailing address.
Yeah,
'Cause that's
yeah.
not something we're thinking about. One of my very first friends. So been in the U.S. for like 2 years now. I have one really good friend at school, but I met some other kid. I don't remember how I met him, but he lived 2 streets over. His name was Gary. I would go over there and we would play his PlayStation. We would play ATV Off Road Fury. I don't know if you guys remember that one. It's with the quads, okay? We'll go over to Gary's house all the time. He was the only friend I had within walking distance, hung out with him all the time, right? One day I go over to his house unannounced. I was just gonna like pop on over there, like annoying neighbor kid. Gone. Cars gone. House empty. Like nothing, just no one, no note, no nothing. I called him the next day, like no answer on the phone, just completely disappeared off the face of the earth. Um and I just can't tell like like sometimes I'm like, did I make that up? Was that like a coping mechanism because like I had no friends? I was like just going over to like play in an empty house or something. Anyway, but that's
He
probably
was
not
real.
true. That's probably
Damn.
not true. Gary was definitely real. That was just a bit, but Gary was real. But he did leave unexpectedly, and so while I have this platform, Gary, if you're out there and you lived in South Bend in 2001 to 2002 and mysteriously disappeared, um, please contact me. I want to know I'm not crazy. I know you were real, and I
Maybe
miss
you guys
I miss
swapped
you,
and he
Gary.
moved to Mexico City.
No, I remember he was we just trade places.
Yeah, you had no idea. He's white and raised in America. His parents are American, but they just moved to Mexico City.
Yeah, it's like we got to go find a better life for you, Gary. So yeah, Gary, if you're out there, buddy, I miss you. I want to reconnect, and yeah, that's okay. Back to Julio now.
That is crazy though. That's a crazy story because
It disappeared. Yeah,
yeah, and yeah, there's some memories that I'm like, was that real for me or was I dreaming or like it was it
because
was
obviously, like
very
kids do have an overactive imagination, and then like once you kind of convince yourself of something, you remember that version of it, and then like
Yeah,
it progressively gets
you
stronger.
remember remembering it, and so the
Yeah,
story can change in your head like multiple times.
but I do.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember playing with him. So that's why I said like I had that very specific memory of like playing that video game because that was definitely real. One day I come over, knock, knock, knock. Gary, let's play some ATV Off Road Fury. I'm trying to do was that the knick-knack, the toe tap over the handlebars. I'm trying to bust some of those out with you, Gare Bear, and he's gone, man.
Yeah.
I hope this podcast blows up and we can find him. Um, so on the topic of like being a sad little kid and then being a sad little adult, in my case anyway, did you ever like consider going back? Because I know my brother at times like he came over and he was like older, but there was sometimes he did consider leaving. Did you ever have that thought? Because you would have been,
Leaving back to Mexico?
yeah, because you DACA wasn't around for a while. For
No, for me, no.
Yeah, so you were without it for a long time.
I was actually, yeah. So I mean, now I have a family here. I'm married. I have a daughter. So I guess my priorities have changed.
Yeah, obviously,
I
yeah.
actually I would go visit, but if worse comes to worse, yeah, I would probably go back
But like
um
before marriage, before
before
like,
marriage.
yeah, was there ever like a time where you had like that thought come across your head?
It was a 70-30% chance of going back. Like 70 actually wanting to stay here and 30% like obviously going back just because of how crime is in Mexico nowadays. It just feels like if you are successful, people tend to take advantage of it. Like if like obviously they'll keep an eye on you and be like, oh, this guy's has is doing great. Let's try to steal from him or whatever. It's
Yeah,
just I feel like it's more difficult than what it is here because I feel like obviously and anybody that are like us obviously knows Spanish or English or has more English than Spanish. And if you go back to your country, your possibilities of having a better life are greater than probably someone that was born in Mexico and stayed there for the rest, for their whole life. So for you to find a career or a job where you can use English to your advantage and make more money, then people tend to notice that,
yeah.
like they tend to notice that, and it's just a bit discouraging just because like sometimes people will take advantage of it.
That's actually one time my brother was like in the kitchen and I came out. I don't remember what I was wearing. Like I just something, you know how kids go through phases. I was like a teenager. I was wearing something dumber, I guess, and he was like, bro, if you go back to Mexico looking like that, you're getting beat up, you're getting robbed, like
Yeah.
no questions asked. And I was like, that makes me feel so good about about
No, and
myself.
it is true though, because like um well, I mean, we were not obviously rich in Mexico, but we were, I would say, middle class, if
Mm.
you can say that. Um and my parents had bought me a brand new bike, and they actually went inside the house because I would leave it in the yard. In Mexico you don't have fences, you actually have like um concrete walls or brick walls that are like at least 10 feet high, so people don't actually jump over them and
Yeah,
steal your stuff. They actually did steal my stuff and took my bike. So it's like, yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a bike. It's
Yeah,
like
that's a lot of effort, but yeah, I understand. I mean, if anything, I've gotten like if any habits that I've gotten from my brother is like definitely like um just kind of like move in silence basically, like don't tell people what you do or like how much you got, like that's your business. And
yeah.
that's how he came up, and that's like as far as anyone's concerned, I'm unemployed, like I just don't talk about that stuff. But
Yeah.
speaking of
No,
which,
yeah,
I do have copies of my resume if anyone listening is a potential employer. Definitely not unemployed, but yeah, get my resume.
no, but it is a thing that you excuse me, that you grow up with. It's a survival skill, honestly. Like you want to stay that, laying low and not tell people what you do and what you have. It just it's a survival skill that you develop, and it kind of stays with you. So I don't, I honestly would, at this point of age and probably beforehand, I probably wouldn't go back to Mexico just because of how different it is compared to the US now. You get
Yeah,
accustomed to it.
yeah,
You like you just, it's not like you can just flip a switch. It's gonna take time.
yeah, yeah. Definitely a tough journey. If anyone has to make it. I mean, were you worried at all? Like, remember in 2016 when they stopped accepting new applications, and they were like talking about ending the program. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
What were your thoughts? Because like at that point, did you have a family already? You were like taking care of.
Me and my wife were together, but no, our daughter was not born yet. It, I mean, she's from a different country than I am. So we were obviously trying to come up with a plan. We're like, okay, what are we gonna do? Like, are we gonna go back to Mexico, or are we gonna go back to your country? We tried to develop a plan, but um, I still had like 2 more years when they stopped. So I was basically on the edge when mine was renewed. It was almost when they decided to stop taking new renewals, or like even renewals at all.
Oh,
So
right, because
mine was
they
at the
stopped
edge.
renewals
So
for like a bit, right? Yeah.
yeah, so I was like on the edge. So I was like, okay, I still have 2 years. If nothing happens within a few months or nothing is resolved, might as well just start saving up and try to think of something.
It's tough. It's tough. Like people don't realize
Yeah,
like that decision. Like you have a family, you have your entire
yeah,
life rooted in here, and that decision could just like uproot everything. And like it's like I don't want to touch on. I know like it's like a tough thought to have, like, but it's like those tough thoughts that like we have to face when
yeah,
things like that happen. And
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's something that people should definitely think about more. That on a whim, and we've talked about this before, Pedro. Just whoever is sitting in the Oval Office could change the entirety of your livelihood on a whim.
yeah, it could just be just sign on the line, and suddenly you have hundreds of thousands of people that have to figure out what to do with their lives if they're gonna live here in the shadows or go to a place that's like completely foreign to them now, and try
yeah.
and start from scratch. Try to start a life from scratch. Like I know, when they stopped accepting renewals, I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish my college degree, and if I have to, I'll go back to Mexico. But that would have set me back so much. Like
Hmm.
my Spanish is bad. All like reading, writing, everything bad. Like I would have such a tough time finding a job, and yeah, I try not to think about it, but if I had to, I'd do it. No, I'm not a punk. I'll do it. But
Yeah, we definitely have tough skin. I feel like everybody that has, even if you were brought here as a kid, you were brought up to have tough skin and to try to survive. You know, like I feel like our parents have definitely passed on those survival skills to us. To no matter what happens, you have to keep on fighting.
hmm
Like you have to keep on going. Like as long as your life is not in danger, you have to keep on going.
yeah,
So, um, but yeah, obviously it doesn't make it any easier. It just you yeah, you have to change.
yeah, yeah. You just have to adapt. I feel like if I would have stayed in Mexico, I probably would have been really lazy. But because I watched my parents work so hard, I'm like, I guess I got to work hard too. Um, because it's just like you have to work twice as hard, especially when like in their case they don't
Yeah,
really have a great grasp on the language. They take whatever job they can get and they do it, without complaining.
correct.
That's
Yeah,
something that stuck with me anyway.
yeah.
Um, Chris, I'm gonna be honest with you. I set a timer here so we'd know where we're at, and I never hit the button to make the timer start. Um, any chance when we started this? Because I do have a couple more questions that I'd like to get through.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I mean, what's fun, when you said that you were taking care of it, it's like my brain completely shut off from
Yeah.
acknowledging the time. So I have no, I would say, I think we started around like 9:15. So
Okay,
probably got
so
like
we're
15
doing
minutes
good. We're
left or
doing
something.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I guess I want to talk just a little bit more about your experience with DACA because, um, so I don't know how much you wanna like go into the time that like, so post high school, no DACA. What was your like what was your approach to life? What was your plan? What were you thinking?
I was actually doing really great. Eighth grade, I had like I believe a 3.6 GPA. Ninth grade, I did really good. I managed to get 3.8. Uh,
Wow.
I believe, and then sophomore, uh, s- you know, senior year, it started to go downhill just because I was like, okay, what am I going to do after school? Obviously, I can't can't really attend college just because it's like twice as expensive as someone that was
Because you have to
born
pay out of
here
state
or
tuition, right?
out of
Like,
state to it. No, not only that, I think it was still more expensive just because you were not, yeah, just out of state tuition. And I couldn't afford it. Like there was, at least for me, I hit a point where I didn't really do much for about 6 years. I just, and when I heard about DACA, I was like, okay, this is technically my opportunity. I have to work my ass off.
hmm.
Like I have to make do of the time that I lost and just work my ass off and try to get as much as I can.
And it wasn't, you didn't spend those 6 years doing nothing because you didn't want to. It's just because there were no opportunities available to you. Like, you're
Yeah,
just, yeah. Because I want to
yeah,
make that clear. Because, like, so some people don't understand that you can live in a state your whole life. But if you're undocumented, if you want to go to college, you have to pay out of state tuitions, which sometimes can be 2 or 3 times more the
yeah.
cost of what in-state tuition, and with the price of college being what it is, that's absurd. Um, but yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. We can go on.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like the amount that you had to pay was pretty high, and this was back in 2007 to 2000 and what, like 12. So that's, yeah. Nowadays it's a lot more expensive, but it, even back then it was still a lot of money that I couldn't afford, because I actually enrolled in the program called computer magnet, where they basically taught you like basic computer skills, how to do basic programming, how to build your own PC, how to
Cool.
do web design. So in high school I took advantage of that. I was like, I want to study or work in a field where I'm involved with computers. Not that I do that anymore, but I still have my knowledge about computers is actually pretty good. But it's something that I wanted to continue that I didn't have the opportunity to, just because of my status at the time. Like I attended college for maybe one semester, and that's about it. And the only reason why I attended college was because I had um, a partial scholarship that I received, and then after that I was like, I can't afford it. Like I can't continue. So I
Yeah.
just decided to not pursue what I wanted to do.
Um, yeah, it can seem like a huge obstacle looming over you, like a huge roadblock when you look at that,
Yeah.
everything you have to go through. Um, man, what is it with Mexicans and computers? We love computers, bro. I don't get it. My brother
I
loves
guess
computers. I
because
love computers.
we don't see them that often over there. Like I remember when I went back, my uncle had a computer, and this was back when AOL was starting and all that stuff. Like it has always interested me.
Yeah.
So I came back here in middle school. Most of my free time I would spend on a computer. Like I would just spend it on the computer, fiddling with it, working on things, just, yeah, doing a lot
Dang.
of computer stuff.
Yeah, that was my brother to a T. I remember we got our like my parents got him like a computer when he started college, and I remember like I was like just watching him like do his thing, and he like looks at me, he's like, "See this hard drive? 256 megabytes." Yeah, this thing's bitching, dude. And then like a year later, I got a PlayStation memory card that was like a gigabyte of memory in it, and I was like, "Hey, bro, gigabyte." Bitching. He's like, "How the hell?" So yeah, we love our technology. Um, so you said you like computers, but so then what did you end up? So 2007, 2012, kind of a little lost because like obviously not a lot of opportunities out there. Um, DACA hits. What are your thoughts? Because did you believe it was like real? Because I remember thinking I was like, nah, I don't know about all this. I remember being like skeptical and like not too sure about it.
it, it hit me by surprise because I was not ready. I it took me about a month and a half, a bit more, to gather up all my documents and everything. Um, Spanning all the way back from what 2007. So yeah, it took me a while to gather up everything. Um, and between that time frame when I graduated high school and up to DACA, I actually had like a part-time job helping kids learn basic computer programming. So it was this program called Open World Learning, um, and that's basically what I did. After that, I didn't I felt motivated to help people, but I didn't feel motivated to help myself, you know, if that makes any sense.
Sometimes it's easier. It's easier to just extend a hand to someone else.
Yeah, so I was like, I want to help these kids learn basic programming, but like I feel stuck myself, like I can't go anywhere. But it felt good helping those kids, and I know that it's gonna help them in the long run because, like, I feel like learning about computers is something essential nowadays.
Oh, for sure. You don't know. You probably helped some kid. Probably some engineers out at IBM, and like,
Probably.
that
I
you
hope
helped
so.
start it. Yeah. No, for sure, for sure. Um, so you get DACA. It's 2012. You've been doing your thing. What was your like? What were your goals? Like suddenly all these doors open up. Um, like where was your head at? Where did you want to go? What did you want to do? Like,
I wanted to go back to school. I started working at a law firm, taking phone calls. Uh, but after that, I met my wife. We started, you know, going out, and I guess my my goals changed. So then I started working as a truck driver, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. So I still want to pursue higher education. I just haven't had the opportunity to do so just because I guess my situation has changed, and not that I don't want it to change or by surprise. Like,
mhm,
I actually, this is what I wanted, but I also still want to pursue higher education in the future.
yeah. I mean, well, yeah.
So
You got a whole family. You got a job.
yeah,
Like you're doing. Yeah,
yeah.
you're doing pretty good, man. Um, and did you like so you've been in Denver for wow, so like since 2002 now, or like you've been in Colorado since.
2002, yeah.
So you would
So
you
almost
consider
20
like
years.
almost 20 years that you've been here?
Almost, yeah. Actually, yeah, next year is 20 years.
Congratulations! Holy cow! Yeah, I mean we've all
Thank
been here
you.
a long time. So would you consider there was a while back in the Discord where we were talking. I forget who said it, but they were like, "This is my home. Like like the U.S. feels like my home. Like I don't want to go back. Like I don't know what kind of life I would live." Would you? I mean, obviously you consider the U.S. your home now, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the 20 years not counting what I was, so I would say like 20, at least 25 years I've been living here. And the rest of the time it was in Mexico. So, but yeah, I would honestly would consider the US to be my home. I don't think I can live anywhere else just because I'm so accustomed to living here. Um, I if I go back to Mexico, I know Spanish, but it's it's gonna be differently. It's gonna be different culturally, and yeah, just
Yeah. Yeah.
harder.
And if you don't mind me asking, is your wife also DACA?
No, no, she's
No.
not DACA.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
I know there was someone in the Discord said they were dating someone who was also DACA, and I thought that was just
No.
like a funny coincidence to like meet your soulmate, and they just also happen to be that fit into that like
Uh,
box that
the
is like DACA
same. Yeah,
recipients. Yeah.
yeah. For me, it was never personally or personal preference. It was never an interest to find someone, whether they be citizens or not.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was just like if I click with that person, then
Yeah.
I want to be with that person.
Yeah.
Like I know some people have the assumption of like, oh, they just come here and like they get married or whatever. But for me personally, it never was my interest to find someone that would give me that advantage to become a citizen or a resident just because of marriage.
Yeah. Because um, it's like implied that you're gonna spend the rest of your life with them. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
base it off of that. I
Yeah,
know a lot of
no.
people are also like having a kid here. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, this isn't. But then I think about that, I'm like, do I really want? Am I really gonna commit to raising a human being just for that? I'm like, yeah, I'll take my
Yeah.
chances with
Yeah, cuz we actually waited at least 3 to 4 years to have a kid. We were like, we're not ready yet. We want to, just enjoy our company and just be by ourselves. And especially because of our situation, like we didn't want to just raise a kid and not know what to do, if things changed.
yeah,
So, but now it's different. So it's like I feel a lot more secure about if things do change that I can take care of our kid.
yeah, that's good. I mean, it's unfortunate that we're in a situation where we have to think of those contingency plans and have to think about these what ifs and what would we
Yeah.
do if but that's just the reality we face. But you're right, we're thick skinned and we just got to roll with the punches. Um, and do you guys unrelated? I just had this thought. Do you guys remember the movie I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry?
No.
Yeah.
Or
It's
maybe.
really bad. It's Adam's. If Adam Sandler, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry, but it's not a great movie. It's like Adam Sandler and Kevin James, and they're like firefighters, and they have to pretend to be married, or they get married so that so one of them can stay in the U.S., one of them's like Canadian or
No,
something.
it was I think it was for benefits, like health benefits or something.
Oh, that's what it was. Like for health insurance, one of them was sick.
Ye- What the Yeah, I don't think one of them was Canadian. I don't think.
What movie is it? I was just thinking it'd be
No, you
funny if
got
it
the
was.
right movie. I think the issue is was health insurance.
Um,
Something that only is an American problem. Like that in any other Western country in Europe would not have to happen.
they
I
watched that
think
movie.
it
They're
was
like,
health.
why are they going through all this trouble? Like, can't they just go to the doctor? So I'm reading the synopsis because I could have sworn it was because one of them wasn't a citizen, but
You're about to
even
compare.
if they remade that movie and I pronounce it Chuck and Larry and two firefighters, one of them's D.A.C.A, um, they pretend to they get married so that he can adjust status. I think that'd be really
Is
funny.
that
Yeah.
is that? I mean, I know there's a lot of complicated. Is that the only? Is that one of the few pathways to citizenship that you would possibly have?
It is, yeah. It's
Yeah,
the only actually it's the only option because uh from what I know when we talk to an attorney, it's just there's no way for us to adjust our status other than to get married to a citizen.
yeah.
So
I
it's
talked
either
to
they
go
sorry,
ahead.
it's either they make DACA a permanent uh thing or a pathway to citizenship or there's yeah.
Yeah, because there's not even a pathway to a green card with DACA, correct?
No.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Nothing. Um, dude, yeah. I mean, that's really that's tough. It's tough to think about
Ridiculous.
that. When I'm swiping on Tinder, I'm just like, is this the one? Is this the green card? Is this it? It's
Well,
tough,
because how do
man.
you have? I think it makes dating tough. Like how, especially if you do happen to meet like an American citizen, that person could put so much prejudice on you. Like, does this person want to be with me because of
Yeah.
like this, or and it's messed up to
Yeah.
think that.
They don't have to know about my papers until we're on the third date. Okay.
My dad, born in Mexico, he's been a permanent resident since he was like 15 years old. He didn't tell my mom's parents that he wasn't a citizen, and they assumed he was, and they didn't find out until they went on like a family vacation. And when they were like getting in, they were going to the airport to like, I think they had just been like, they started dating, and they get to the airport and they are showing like their like driver's license to go through like security. And he goes in like a line for people with like Mexican passports. And my grandparents are like, what the hell is he doing?
Holy shit.
And that's how they found out that he was a Mexican
Oh my
citizen.
gosh.
I'm definitely more vocal about like my status now, because I think I was like ashamed of it for so long. Now I'm just like, I am who I am. Like, this is the path I have to take. Like, I'm not, like, obviously I'm not yelling it from the rooftops, but I don't
Yeah.
try and hide it as much as I used to. And I'm trying to think back if uh like the few serious relationships I've had have been with U.S. citizens, and I can't remember whether or not I've told them. Obviously, I didn't think we were going to get married, and we didn't. So maybe I just didn't bring it up. But um, hey, to all my ex girlfriends that I know for sure are watching this because you're obsessed with me, um, give me a text. Let me know if I ever told you if that I was undocumented. My phone's open. Um, sorry to both of you. um, yeah, so I think that wraps it up for today. Unless there's anything else you'd like to add or include here, Chris.
No, that's all from me. Julio, anything you might want to say?
Any final words? Any product placements? Any plugs? Anything like that?
No, I'm good. It was a pleasure to do this quick interview with you guys. It definitely, I think it would probably help, or hopefully it helps someone. You know.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like just this conversation helped me. Like, I definitely saw a lot of parallels between us, and um, obviously it's not doesn't feel great to know that someone also went through some hardships, but it is comforting um,
Yeah.
to know that we're not alone. And that's how I feel in the Discord. Like, I don't feel alone in there.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially because like in a way we live in the shadows. If you think about
yeah,
it, like
yeah,
we try to stay under the radar. We try not to be looking for trouble because we actually like it here. We want to be here. Like we have to, in a way, behave ourselves because otherwise you will get kicked out. Like you will not get approved for renewal, or you can get deported in, you know, and oh yeah,
it's all
without
messed
any
up.
notice.
Yeah,
So
you're not afforded the privilege of even making a mistake.
no, no,
Yeah,
not really. No.
and that's just kind of
So
been how it is our whole life. You have to work harder. You have to act better, not better, but like you have to
You have to
behave
be the model
a certain
citizen.
way. You have to be, yeah,
pretty much, actually, yeah. In a way, people think that, I mean, yes, we were brought here without documentation and not the proper way, but the things that we have to do just to belong and stay in this country are far more than what a citizen has to do. Like we get no second chances at all. Like now that we have DACA or anything like that, it you just don't get any second chances. Like if you mess up once, you're out. Most likely, you're out.
yeah. Man. Oh, so to all my friends, if you're acting rowdy and I dip, I'm sorry, but I cannot have that on my record. Anyway, so to everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in to Not So Fresh Off the Boat. Um, we appreciate you taking your time to listen. Go ahead and follow us on social media if you'd like, or leave a review. Let us know what you think. You like it, you don't like it. Please don't tell me if you don't like it. I have a very fragile and sensitive ego, and I will not be able to handle any form of criticism. So, thank you so much. Signing off. Good night.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Not So Fresh Off the Boat. Another round of thanks to Julio for taking some time with us to share his story and how DACA has affected his life. Be sure to join us next week for our season finale. Yes, finale. We can't believe we've had 6 weeks of episodes of this podcast come out. Pedro and I will be wrapping up our discussions from these past 6 weeks, talk about where we go from here, as well as the history of Mexican American identity in the United States, what it means to be Mexican American, and how that's kind of been shaped over time, and why history always seems to repeat itself, and why we feel like we have the same conversations over and over again. So thank you for listening. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, share with those in your life that you think could benefit from listening to this podcast. And many thanks if you've been with us through this whole first season. And thank you so much.